So, have you ever considered quitting? Like, what kept you going? Has there been a time that you thought, okay, no, I'm no longer interested. I want to go home?
I think when you consider where you're coming from, you don't have a choice. We are not built for quitting.
Welcome to Academic Village, where we explore the realities of academia, the struggles, the breakthroughs, and everything in between. So today I'm excited to be joined by Philip Abu, who is a Nigerian socio-demographer currently pursuing his PhD in Geneva. So Philip is a PhD candidate in demography at the Institute of Demography and Socioeconomics at the University of Geneva in Switzerland. So he's a master's degree holder in demography from the European Doctor School of Demography. So he's really a core demographer. And he's also done a master's degree in sociology from the University of Ibadan in Nigeria before going to Europe. And also he finished a first class degree in sociology at the Nasarawa State University, Kefi, Nigeria. So and currently he's working on a number of projects, a number of research projects in and outside of Europe, especially in East Africa, where they're looking at the remaking of the family in East Africa, focusing on gendered family parenting practices in urban and with particular attention to Nairobi and Kampala using life course approaches. So if you're interested in life course approaches to research, Philip is it's your go-to person. So today we're going to be before we look at okay what Philip has to share with us today. An interesting bit about Philip is that while he loves to travel, he's not a fan of taking photographs. But beyond the academic papers and conference presentations, today we will hear from Philip about what it really takes to build an academic career, the obstacles he's faced as a PhD student, the strategies that have helped him succeed. And welcome, Philip. Let's begin with what inspired you to pursue a PhD in social demography and why Geneva, if I may add.
Thank you, Abbas. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to share my insight. So, first of all, why I chose to pursue a PhD is because there are different factors that that inspired me. The most important one is the fact that my father was a teacher, and growing up in Nigeria, if your
Mm,
parents are teachers, you are bound, you are expected to also choose the academic line.
yeah.
Also excel, go through your education, go through a path that is predictable. You understand?
Mm, mm,
So, but beyond the family orientation, beyond the family push factors, I also, during my undergraduate at Nassau State University, I had a very good professor, Professor John Obioma Ukawilulu, who was also who came from Howard University in the U.S. Demography. He first introduced me to demography precisely.
mm,
And so he told me about the importance of demography, the different subfields in sociology. But he told me that he himself, he's a gerontologist, but had a very good training in demography. And he told me that beside criminology and all other subfields, demography is it's almost the strongest among the subfields of sociology.
mm,
And in Nigeria, just very few universities offer demography in undergraduate. So immediately after that, I had to, in fact, in my second year as a sophomore, I already knew I was going to study demography, major in demography. And I knew I was going to either Ibadan or I go abroad for my studies. So it was already like a predetermined thing. And
mm,
so choosing to pursue a PhD in Geneva was first of all inspired by the project itself, which I was employed on, because I had other options, I have other opportunities, but then I had to work on the project that really is closer to me, which is it's a project that was situated in Geneva, but it's on the East African continent, so East African sub-region. So there is an affinity. We have there's proximity between, in this population, I'm coming from West Africa, but
Yeah.
you could make some inferences. You could say something about East African culture generally. So I had to pursue that. I had to pursue my PhD used through this project.
Great.
But
Thank you.
again, besides all this, PhD is the highest level of learning. I mean, if you really want to contribute to global knowledge, to also position yourself in the global market, in the labor market, to be much more valuable, I think having a PhD is important. And also, maybe I'm saying, but remember that in Nigeria, we don't have too many opportunities. So education still remains a very important factor that can for upward mobility.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's a key factor. And I mean, when you have the environment that supports that ability to move up the ladder in terms of social mobility, education is really important. So thank you very much for giving us that insightful background into how you became interested in demography as a sociologist. So, what has been the biggest challenge in your PhD journey so far? What would you consider as the most important like?
So I am married, actually, and I left. So it's the biggest challenge. There are two challenges. Again, the biggest one is that I'm staying away from my spouse,
Mhm.
which is really taking, it's not easy to manage such situation. Having a beautiful young woman and I'm also a young man, and then staying away from each other after getting married, it's really difficult. But one of the challenges in this PhD journey is staying motivated.
Hmm.
It's one thing to, start a PhD, but then because of the long time you're expected to be in this journey, motivation is not always at the same level. You could start very high, but then the curve drops with time. So staying motivated can be very difficult. So the only way to do is I take my work. I try to take my work in piecemeal,
Hmm.
you know, in piecemeal. And I also have a very, very good support system from my professor is a very good support system, very critical, but she is very, very good support system to me. So it's one of the challenges is staying motivated and staying away from family, friends that you have built a relationship with for a long time. And then all of a sudden you are no longer together. And there's cultural distance
Yeah.
when you are in Europe here. It's difficult to make friends
Hmm.
maybe at middle
Yeah.
age, when especially you are far from people that you grew up with. So, but staying motivated is a big challenge.
Yeah, I mean, especially when that motivation is meant to come from your support system. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so you have a people, for instance, if you're at home and then you have your family around, you see them, you talk about your challenges, you joke about it and
Mm.
celebrate even your challenges and your successes. And but you don't have that if you're away somewhere in Europe and nobody could even do that. And as you mentioned about the gap in say cultural distance. I think I also had a similar challenge when I even started my master's degree. I was lucky I had my wife with me, so I didn't have this thought of not having someone. At least I know I could go home and then what if it is to cry or to laugh or whatever I want to do, I've got someone to do that with to discuss my challenges. So I was really lucky with that.
And, and you remember you were really resourceful to my well-being when I came to Europe newly because I mean it was new culture, new weather, new food,
Mhm.
everything. You left your family behind. And then you are also the academic system. I mean, the educational system seems to be almost ahead of your time,
Yeah.
or the rigors, the pressure, the every day you are a lot of activities you have to keep up with. I mean, we are tough people from Nigeria, but sometimes when we come up here in the beginning, it's usually
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah, it's a new ball game. It's a different challenge what you get in because
And
as you just mentioned now about catching up. So
Yeah,
we all had that gap that okay, this is where I'm meant to be if I want to succeed on this program.
exactly.
So how do you then bridge that gap from where you were and where you're expected to be to completely or to successfully complete be the master's degree? I could remember when you were doing your master's program
Yes.
across the Erasmus. It was, I know it was really a really really difficult time in terms of
Yeah.
getting.
I remember how I used to call you, and I really want to use this opportunity to thank you very much. Because you told me something,
Hmm.
because I was going through the same experience, and then I didn't even say that to you. You said, Philip, there were times I used to look at myself in the mirror, and I asked myself, am I really the one? Is this the high achieving? Is this the high achieving Abbas? That is, you begin to doubt yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that statement, that sentence you made, that I
Mm.
used to look at myself in the mirror. Those were the things I was going through. And I also had a friend. I have a friend. She's just about rounding off her PhD in Dublin.
Okay. Mm.
So we were classmates in Ibadan. So she also went through this curve of self-doubt, and
Yeah.
so I was able to. You guys were very instrumental
Mm.
to my return to glory. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, there was this time that when I just got to Glasgow, and that was for my master's degree as well. I had my first essay that was graded was, I think, a C. And I can't remember the last time I had a C as a grade. It was, I could not believe it. I said, no, this is not possible. This is not. But then I went back, I sat down. Okay, fine. I think this is a reality check. And then I had to realize that, okay, it's just a matter of what do you need to do to be able to get to that level, or what has been, I mean, you just have to reinvent yourself. And that's what really happened. And ever since
Um,
then, I've been able to, I found my grip. And,
and I think also I had very good colleagues during my program. The whole coursemate, they were very nice people. So there was this level of family kind of situation. We were just 16 in number in the class, so everybody knew everybody. We were going through the same challenge. So I had people I had colleagues I had French colleagues, I had Italians, I had Germans, I had people from the US, in Brazilians. So we all came from from different countries.
mm,
We're going through the same program. Some were already better ahead of us because they were more quantitatively inclined.
yeah,
So it was much more better for them because the program was highly quantitative.
yep,
And my quantitative background was still very not
shaky.
was still shaky. So I really went through changes that I
So,
had
yeah, go ahead.
I had to learn and relearn. But it was really a nice experience because I think I've built resilience right from that moment.
Yeah, and that connects to my second question about how, as an international student from Nigeria, how has that sort of shaped your experience in, or how has your experience in Geneva shaped your academic journey, or even in Europe generally? Experience in Geneva sort of shaped your academic journey in terms of what PhD program would you apply for, or what
Okay.
research group did you go for in terms
So, so during my master's program in Barcelona,
of. Mm,
the European Doctoral School of Demography is a very prestigious, it's one of, I think, based on my assessment, I can rank it as the best demography globally. I will give it to them because it has a very strong network of professionals. So, and it's highly competitive to get into that program. So anybody that make it to the selection, it's already that person's academic journey or academic career is already kind of somehow determined already
mm,
just by being part of that program. So, but then you are exposed to different, demography deals with fertility issues, mortality,
yeah,
migration.
yeah.
So, so you are exposed to all these three components of demography, and such that which with just any program that comes from anywhere, if you find it interesting, you are able to just switch. Even if you were a mortality related guy, you can easily switch because of the solid background you are given across all the three components.
Mm.
So I was much more interested in underage mortality, under five mortality. Even my thesis was on teenage pregnancy and infant mortality in Nigeria. But because I already, and then my master's in Nigeria focused on the sexual and reproductive health
Yeah.
of displaced
Yeah.
adolescents. So I have both idea in family demography,
Mm.
fertility issues, and then now mortality. But it was easy for me to switch, which now I'm more into family demography, but then looking at parenting, gendered practices and gender and parenting practices. I mean, gendered family and parenting practices. That's what my current work is on. But it's also because I had a very good background in different components of demography. So by just being part of that program already gave me an edge in applying for this position.
Yeah.
I mean, I applied for this position, I'm quite sure there were a lot of people who applied for this.
Sure.
But because you had that experience, it kind
Mm.
of gave you an edge over all other people that applied for such program.
Right.
So that is how kind of my experience in Barcelona kind of shaped my journey to this moment.
Transition into the PhD. I mean, that's really fantastic in
Yeah,
terms of how do you align your previous skills with the needed skill for the PhD, and
yeah,
then it sits you in a very right position, as you said, sets you ready for the future because now you have that experience. You can transition between those three programs, and you can easily make a huge contribution to any of those research streams.
yeah.
That's really beautiful. So, have you ever considered quitting? Like, what kept you going? Has there been a time that you thought, okay, no, I'm no longer interested. I want to go home?
I think when you consider where you're coming from, you don't have a choice. We are not built for quitting.
Hmm.
My professor, she always says something to me that she gets into my head so bad. When she says that, my motivation just grows. She said, Philip, it takes a lot to break you down.
Hmm.
So imagine your professor saying that Philip, it will take a lot to break you down.
Wow,
So
interesting.
yeah, so I don't know, yeah, has been with me just a year, but she tried to know, she really understood me. And so quitting is not a choice for us. And because what I went through during my first 4 months in Europe, I don't, I've built resilience. I've built resilience that I don't think even this PhD and this PhD moment that I'm doing PhD, I'm pursuing this PhD, I will never find challenges that are beyond what I faced during my master's.
Hmm.
So quitting, I've never thought about quitting because it's even a shame that what is a man or what is human if you can't take up challenges? I know that for people that quit, also have very good reasons to.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not an insult, or we are not saying that they don't. If you have to quit, there must be, maybe you don't have enough resilience. But
Yep.
I think for me, I've never thought about quitting. I only thought about resting. Do you know something? I plan my day in a way that I will not really be burnt out. In a day, if I'm going to work, even the moment I need to take a walk, I put it in, I also write it down. When I need to call my wife or call a friend as a form of break,
Yeah.
I write it down. So I make sure I tick all this most of the times.
Hmm. Hmm.
So because of that, you would see yourself not being missing out on very many aspects that would have, if they were not there, those activities, if you were not able to engage in those activities, you would have easily been burnt out.
Hmm. Now let's talk about work-life balance. Do you think it's a myth, or is this something that PhD students, or is it something that you've had to manage it yourself?
But is there truly a work-life balance for a PhD student? You know, when PhD, it's about feeling guilty. When you don't work, you just feel guilty all the time. But I think there's work-life balance if you are conscious of it. It's a conscious. It's something that you must take it as a work. I mean, you have to remember all the times that, oh, no, 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 this is too much. I need to take a break. So what I do is that I take, this is how I balance this from Mondays to Fridays. I mean, Mondays to Friday evening, I have all my activities planned and I really do them based on, I don't overburden myself in a day because even email, this is one secret I use. Even if I have to read email, I have to send email, I have to meet a professor, I have to meet a student, I write it down. I write all this down, and when I do one, I tick. When I do one, I tick. So that kind of gives me a sense of
Oh,
fulfillment,
but
a
yeah.
sense that I am working, that I'm doing something. It's not just so that when you task is completed, you take it and you get this internal satisfaction that yes,
Mm.
I've done something. So instead of saying, okay, today I need to make this analysis, and then imagine you start analysis from morning till 5 p.m. and you have not gotten any good thing out
You're
of it.
still one more.
Imagine exactly. Imagine how that would be. So,
Mm.
but again, one most important thing that I use to balance work is that every Friday, even if I'm not drinking or not going out for a drink, I even if I don't drink that much, but I always make sure at least I go out to take a glass of beer,
Mm.
and I also do a lot of exercise on it every day. I have time for physical exercise. It's only when you don't make that decision that you would think that there's no time for exercise. But
Yeah.
if you decide that I am going to um, do exercise every day or at least 2 to 3 times a week, then you will find that time. So I make sure I sleep on time. I sleep at least anything 11:30, I'm
Mm.
already in bed. And by 5, at most 5:30, it's like a biological clock. So whether you like it or not is predetermined. You just have to wake up.
Mm.
And then I run, do some stretching, and then come back, go to work. So this is my life. If there's any, I'm always on the lookout. If there's any free party around, I always, especially on the weekends, I always make sure I attend such parties because that is how I am able to balance work. But it's not really. I can say that I still don't have it to the level I want.
Yeah.
It's not up to the moment that I want to be,
Yeah.
but always as a PhD student, you don't have to have excellent work-life balance.
Do you have weekends at all? How do you do your weekends? Or is it part
Yes,
of the work?
Abbas.
Okay. So where did they go? Where did they go? What do you do with your weekends?
So there's this program I'm following, and I'm also doing another diploma program. Besides
Mm.
this, yes, it's in entrepreneurship and project management. I'm doing it with the 4E European University Alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 4 EU plus. And so every Friday and Saturdays we have lectures, but it's only going to last for 8 months or 9 months thereabout. So for the past since November, my weekends are always busy. But this will end in June.
June, June.
But because maybe I'm used to that frame of work, I
Yeah.
would also find something else to do.
To fill that gap.
But if when my wife comes to live with me, I guess my weekends will become, I have to create time to be at
Mm.
home because I still love that woman.
Yeah, I hope that works for you because I'm married, I've got kids, and I still eat into my weekends. And
Oh,
I try as much as possible to after the PhD, I promised them, okay, when I finish the PhD, things are going to change. And now I'm admitting on camera now that things have not qualitatively
yeah.
changed.
Okay. So I have to prepare for that.
So I'm just giving you a heads up to know that as you're making the promise now, be
Yeah.
sure to stay. to stick with our promise because it is really difficult, especially when you are, say, for instance, employed 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and you still have to do your own personal work. You have a revision due for submission, a deadline that's hanging, that's your own deadline, or something like this that you want to do. You want to have a meeting, a chat with someone on the side. So these are the things that sort of take your time. But I mean, as you said, it's also a matter of planning and getting things right.
Mm.
Well, I've spoken to most academics. They are paid for 60 hours, but they work for 80, 100 hours per week because things have to get done.
I think like for me, I most of the moments I think it's just a habit that I have developed long ago
Mm.
because even during my undergraduate and all my master's program, I always work. I don't have specific day to rest. I work throughout, so I only have to learn to keep the weekends really balanced. It's a new work. It's something that I have to learn to do.
Yeah, I think it's what every other PhD student is also struggling with, I guess. Yeah, so we will keep exploring to find a solution to the work-life balance. But
Yeah,
from your theory now, it's a myth, even
it's a
though
I mean,
it's needed. It's, I mean, every employer or every university encourages that, but still, I don't think there's been any proper framework or support system to
especially
help us.
especially when you don't have when your career is not yet determined.
Yeah, I guess. So funding is often a challenge for PhD students. How have you navigated financial pressure? I know you're being paid, but you're living in Geneva. I mean, what PhD students live in Geneva? So how have you managed it?
Okay, so first of all, I want to tell you that luck is been luck. I've been lucky throughout my life when it comes to finances.
Good, good.
Because even before leaving Nigeria, I got funding before even my flight tickets, everything were taken care of by the scholarship. Mine was just to come to you. And during the 11-month program, I had fund stipend paid every month, which was really good. Max Planck Institute for Demographic Research, MPIDR in Rostock, they funded my program. They funded my scholarship, so I was really lucky. And then immediately I rounded up in the program, coming to Geneva. I also on a good funding opportunity. Of course, Geneva is a very expensive city to be in. Just a very moderate apartment for PhD students. You're paying more than sometimes more than one third of your salary. So it's not easy. But I think I am a low for now. I really keep a very low budget because I don't even but beyond that, I have a very good professor who has given me teaching assistantship. So I'm able to that kind of augmented my salary for some times now. And each time I have to travel for any program, everything is funded, is paid for. So I don't have to. So that's the luck part of it.
Great, great. Thank you. So, stay within budget.
Yeah, I'm still
Don't live don't live like an academic. You're still a
no, no, no.
you're still a student and seek other financial opportunities.
Yeah.
Teaching on the side, research associate or research assistant positions could help alleviate or sort of reduce the pressure. Okay. Your research focuses on sociodemography. What's one thing that surprised you? I mean, I know you're working within the East African region. What's that one insight from your work that surprised you as a sociodemographer?
Okay, so currently I'm still doing analysis. I just started my analysis, so I
Mm.
wouldn't tell you something much more based on that, based on the data for now. I wouldn't be able to say that. However, from casual observation and from literature that I've reviewed so far, from my personal experience in Kenya and Uganda for the many times I've been there and how I've interacted with people, the ground truth is that Europe is not too far from us
Mm.
when it comes to like I'm working on gendered family and parenting practices.
Yeah.
Precisely, I'm looking at how decision making is done within the family setting among couples. I'm also looking at involvement in household tasks, the division of household tasks, and I'm also looking at how childcare tasks are also being shared among couples. But if you look at it, though the Western continent, the Western is a bit ahead of us,
Yeah.
but the African or the sub-Saharan African situation is also moving towards the direction of equity.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine Kenya has one of the highest. Kenya is really pushing for affirmative action, especially in terms of politics. Women's participation, they are really ahead of people in that. Even more than Uganda, even Rwanda is also ahead in terms of when you compare it to other Western countries, you would see that really there is push towards equity. So you wouldn't. This is one big surprise that I learned because before now you would read and say, "Oh, Africa, the gap in the gender gap is so large in
Yeah.
Africa,"
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's not that way. If you look at it, and it's one of the reasons why I chose to work on such topics.
I mean, really fascinating. I mean, we still know a lot of gender practices in the West that are still subsisting as much as they are in Africa as well. So, but unless you go and look at the data beyond the headlines, you can't
Yeah,
really get to see the nitty-gritty and what's the real story, what the real stories are. And, there's this, facade of, okay, yeah, Africa is largely anti-girl or gender parities. I mean, we know that there are some existing cultural practices that are harmful to girls, but then we have them here too in the West as well.
do you currently Uganda? It's ahead of many. In fact, for the past the master class ranking in terms of women involvement in entrepreneurship. Uganda has been consistent in terms of its ranking. It's been in the third position globally, and the first three countries in the world are from Africa. Currently, Africa has the highest number of women in entrepreneurship. So it's already showing the pattern. The trend is just showing that actually the work needs to be done. However, we have not been retrogressing as sometimes the media or the Western media portrays the continent to be. A lot is happening,
Yeah.
and it's happening for good of both gender.
Yeah, I think that's why social demographers like you from Africa that are able to go into, say, these vicinities and see what's happening are really important because it's who has the data that can tell the story or that can write the history. So if you have the data, you know what's okay. This is what I'm saying, and you can compare, and that's a plus for the continent.
C- Can I say this to you, Dr. Abbas? This is one of the, I now remember again, one of my reasons for even choosing to study demography. Do you know demography is very important?
Yeah,
But it's a field that many people, especially if you ask them in Africa, they really don't know about demography. But look at how our population is growing. Like Nigeria, we are projected to clock at least 400 million people by 2050. So, and we literally have, how many professional demographers do we have? None. We have just very few. And at the end of the day, you are living policies that are population-driven policies. You are leaving them to
some guys from
maybe
World Bank.
World Bank, or you're leaving it to people who
Mm,
really don't have the requisite
yeah,
training or the background information to really make these decisions or to draft policies that are really inside or professionally driven. You understand?
yeah,
It's a big problem. So for me, it's also one of the reasons that inspired me to study demography.
interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, publishing and networking are vital in academia. What strategies have helped you get your research out there? Like, how do you sort of communicate and disseminate your research?
Okay. So publishing is very
Hmm.
It's very important, but also for a PhD student, for junior researchers like us, it's usually very challenging. And because you need to, because of the peer review pressure, the peer review process is very challenging, and because you need to also turn out or submit high quality papers. So the best way to do as a junior researchers is to start early, and then so the one way to navigate is that you always attend conferences, you always to present your ideas and get get high quality feedbacks from people, from professionals or
Hmm.
from professors. And also I think starting early is important. That's one important thing to do. When you start early and then you attend these conferences, and you also need to consult, you need to have good mentors.
Yeah.
When you have good mentors, you have, I mean, I'm privileged to have really good mentors. Right from I keep track of my mentors from undergraduate to this moment. My professors during my master's in Spain, we are in good communication. And this is one way that you help to, you deal with, this is one way to deal with the challenge of publishing as a junior researcher. Yeah.
Yeah. Start early, have a good mentor. I mean, those
Yeah.
things have really helped me as well.
Yes.
I still keep in contact with all my professors. Even during my PhD, I was lucky to have a very good supervisor who was ready to support me in all the ways. So ready to read my scrappy drafts and whatever state it was. I don't mind sending it to him. I know it's him. He's going to suggest you should do this, work on this. This could be better said, and then it's really improved my work and
Yes.
my communication as a researcher. So
And the good thing is they allow you to say your mind.
yeah.
They allow you to, and then they don't, I've never, my professors, they always give me critical
Mm.
feedbacks, but in a way that when I read it, I say, okay, well, I agree with this, because they don't say it and almost most of my professors, they always, I don't know, I've always been lucky that way. When they give me feedback, they don't want me to do it. They always want to sit with me, explain why they say this, why they did this, and that's how it has been.
Mm.
So having good mentors, I know that you sometimes you might think you are choosing a bad mentor. When you are choosing a good mentor, it turns out to be your relationship becomes very bad. But having a good mentor is very good. So
Interesting.
my star has been shining on that aspect.
Yeah, you have to sit on the shoulder of the giants
Yeah.
so you can see ahead, and that's really helpful. So, for students in anywhere in Nigeria, in Africa, who want to follow your path as a social demographer, what's that one thing you wish someone um had told you before you started?
So there is what I might say now is not might not be for people in Europe.
Mm,
What I'm saying now might be much more useful to for people coming from other countries into Europe. So if you want, my advice is that before you start a PhD, you should know that it is a challenge. PhD has never been easy, because no matter how you love academics, no matter how you love being educated, you will still go through your down moments. So selecting a very good topic, writing on something that you really love is very key. So imagine I had different opportunities, different positions, but when I looked at both positions, I said, no, no. The one that I will work on East Africa will be much more better for me, because I can make inference, say something about this population that I don't really need to read about it, but I can say something that is a bit clearer. Even much more can be true as well. But imagine I'm working on a population in the Swedish population. What do I know about these people? Apart from what I have read in books. But working on East Africa, it's more like a lived experience.
mm,
So selecting the right project that is closer to your heart is very important. And well, I don't want to say, also choose the right mentor or supervisor. But sometimes as PhD students, we don't care about that. We care about opportunity first.
Yeah, and I think it's really important selecting the right supervisor.
I
You have
remember,
to research because the PhD journey is it's not just within that period of
no,
doing the 4 to 5 or years of research. It's a long-term relationship you are building. The only person that can comment on who you are, what you can do, is your should be your PhD supervisor because
yeah,
they've lived worked with you for that long number of years, and they should be able to say, okay, yeah. So the funding was there, and I said, okay, fine. What's your proposal? And I selected I submitted my proposal. So I went there with what I wanted to do, know what's already on ground. So I was really able to say, yeah, this is the context I want to research. And I went back to Nigeria for my field work, my research. So this is the context. This I'm an expert. As much as I want to be an educational sociologist, not essentially in Nigeria sociologist. You see what I mean? But still, I want to be able to speak from a particular perspective that I'm, comfortable with. I've lived, and I can also build my portfolio. Even though ever since then I've been working around a lot of projects in the UK and outside Africa, so that's a plus. But to start with, you want to be able to start with that. As Howard Becker said, that in most cases, a sociologist or social scientist are always interested in researching things that are close to home, like things that are close to our heart. And that's how everyone has started. Most ethnographers, sociologists started from that point of, that everyday actualities or realities that they sort of observe and they want to explain or theorize in a way, which is interesting. So let's look at the last few questions before we go. What would be your best productivity hack for PhD students?
so what I use is I work. So what I'm saying is you have to do something, no matter how little it is.
Mm,
If, in fact, if you want to write 100 pages, even if it means 5 lines every day, just do something. I was thinking that, oh, I need to have, you would not have motivation all the time. Motivation will not be there all the time. But if you are, so when there's motivation, make sure you increase your productivity. You increase the number of things you do. But
mm,
when you lack productivity, set a baseline that this is what I'll do regardless of how I feel. So in summer I needed to turn in my proposal this month, but during summer the heat was too much in Geneva, so I had to read one paper, but I needed to read it in detail. I needed to understand it because it formed the basics of my theory in my thesis. So I read that paper for 7 days, just one paper. But when I did that, after I did that, to this day, there's almost every part of that paper, if you ask me, I know it. So that is the hack, is that, and some days I'll come and read just a page, but I needed to read it. So same with writing. No matter what it is, you should write every day or have something to do that has to do with your progress, that will improve your progress. No matter how little, no matter how little achievement you've small things you've achieved, make sure you do something. So it's the biggest hack for me. I just can't stay a day without writing a page, without writing, even if it's a paragraph, I have to. And it doesn't matter if it's not in the right shape or in the best, even if it is not my best output, I have to do something.
great, great. So thank you very much. So, what is that one myth about PhD that you would like to debunk?
Okay, there's this idea that when you but usually it's because of maybe how we think about it in Nigeria.
Mm,
Most times PhD people think that when you go for PhD is because you want to stay in the academia. You
mm,
understand? But it's not what it is here in Europe. You having a PhD is even at that, even here, see some people think that way. That no, I don't need a PhD. But when you have a PhD, actually there's more, your pool for opportunity increases more. So it's not just about being being an academic, being in the academia, but also it gives you opportunity, it increases your employability much more than if you had no PhD.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you could go back, would you still choose to do
Yes,
a PhD?
yes, 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 I would, because for me, what exactly would I do if I don't, I this is an orientation that I've been given since I was a child,
Hmm.
from my father. You have to go to school, you have to go to school. So, and my father wanted, before he died, he wanted to enroll for PhD. So imagine having a father who is thinking about PhD,
Hmm.
and then a young man with different opportunities. Now you wake up and then you say, no, I don't want to. I, as I am, PhD is a journey that I have to complete.
So, final words of advice for PhD students who are struggling right now. What would be your final words of
It's
encouragement
a
or
usual
advice?
thing. It's a usual. Don't think you are alone.
Hmm.
Nobody, the brightest PhD student also go through struggles. So struggle is part of the journey. And as much as you are feel you do well all the time, also recognize that these challenges, these struggles are part of the journey, and make sure you learn from each of these challenges for better. For let these challenges kind of catapult you into greater success, because without these challenges, I don't think you will learn anything.
Hmm.
The biggest, most times we learn better under challenge. When we are challenged, then we learn better. So any PhD student, whoever that is struggling, you would have self-doubt. But please, it's something that it's a situation that everyone has experienced. You have experienced it. I am experiencing it, and I will even even professional people who have who are done with PhD years after, they still go through those challenges. So would you not face challenges if you are not a PhD student?
Yeah, you can't hear from it.
Exactly. So
Yeah, and I think crisis is a good site for epistemology, for learning and
yeah,
becoming. I think so. Yeah, thank you very much, Philip, for sharing your journey.
thank you.
Where can people connect with you if they want to follow your work or your activities?
So I'm on LinkedIn. That's the only Philip Abu on LinkedIn, I think so.
Oh, I like that. Thank you very much. So if you enjoy this conversation, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more read talks about academia, and let us know in the comment section what you think is the most interesting part of Philip's story. See you on the flip side. Thank
Thank
you.
you for the opportunity.